Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. This is the spot where I post extra episodes, silly and funny things, and also content that doesn't always make it into the podcast. Maybe it's a little outside of the Tudor sphere. So if you like this kind of content and you want to keep seeing it in your feed, make sure you subscribe and hit like, because that feeds the algorithm. And hey, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to learn something new or think about something you already knew in a different sort of way. Life is busy and hectic, and you took time out to learn. So well done, you. Thumbs up. So in this video, we're going to talk about some of the lesser known scandals of 16th century England, from secret marriages to daring rebellions. These are stories that sent shockwaves through the Tudor court, but might not be as well known as the stories of Henry VIII and his wives. So buckle up and let's dive into the world of intrigue, power, and deception. So the first scandal is Thomas Seymour and Elizabeth I. So this involves the future Queen Elizabeth and her step-uncle, Thomas Seymour. After the death of Henry VIII, Seymour married Catherine Parr, Henry's widow, the sixth wife, and she was also Elizabeth's stepmother. So Seymour made inappropriate advances towards Elizabeth, which raised eyebrows and caused a scandal that ultimately led to his downfall. He was accused of plotting to overthrow the Lord Protector and marry Elizabeth, and he wound up being executed for treason, leaving a lasting stain on his name. It also didn't help that he probably killed the king's dog. It's never a good look to kill the king's puppy. I don't know if it was a puppy, but it was his dog. So that was the first one, Thomas Seymour and Elizabeth I. She wasn't Elizabeth I yet, she was princess, but she would be. Second, Mary, Queen of Scots, and Lord Darnley. The second scandal on our list takes us to Scotland and the tumultuous marriage of Mary, Queen of Scots, and her cousin, Lord Darnley. Their volatile relationship led to a series of shocking events, including the brutal murder of Mary's secretary, David Rizzio, and the mysterious explosion that killed Darnley. Accused of conspiring in her husband's murder, Mary's reputation was tarnished, which set the stage for her eventual abdication and imprisonment in England. Scandal 3, Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen. So the third scandal in our countdown is the tragic story of Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen. Following the death of Edward VI, Jane was proclaimed queen in a desperate bid to maintain Protestant rule in England. She wasn't actually technically the next in the line, according to Henry VIII's will, but Edward VI wanted to keep the Protestant line going, and he figured out a way to put her in there and to leave out his sisters from the succession. But her reign was short-lived because Mary I, the rightful heir, quickly amassed support and overthrew Jane. And of course, Jane was only a pawn in this dangerous game of power. She was young and she was innocent, and she still met a tragic end. She was beheaded when she was 16. But to be fair to Mary, because there is Mary's side of the story, she did want to be lenient at first, and she kept Jane in prison with the view to potentially setting her free at some point. But then Jane's father, who was not in prison, he participates in yet another rebellion against Mary, using Jane as a potential figurehead. And so at that point, Mary's just like, I don't know what else I can do. You guys are going to keep rebelling. You can't have that. And so at that point, she beheaded Jane. So that is the tragic story of Jane. The next scandal is Frances Howard and the Overbury affair. So the Overbury affair is a tale of lust, power, and murder most foul, that shocked the Jacobean court. Frances Howard was a beautiful and ambitious noblewoman, and she became entangled in a web of deceit when she sought to annul her marriage to the Earl of Essex in order to marry her lover, Robert Carr. Sir Thomas Overbury was a close friend of Carr's. He disapproved of the match and attempted to dissuade him. Furious, Frances conspired with others to poison Overbury, because that's a natural reaction, while he was imprisoned in the Tower of London. The scandal was eventually uncovered, leading to the disgrace of Francis N. Carr and the execution of several conspirators. Our fifth scandal involves the infamous Babington plot, an elaborate conspiracy to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I and place Mary, Queen of Scots, on the English throne. In 1586, a group of Catholic conspirators led by Anthony Babington planned to free Mary from her imprisonment. She was in England imprisoned by this point, and overthrow Elizabeth. But the plot was discovered by Elizabeth's spymaster, Francis Walsingham, who intercepted the deciphered, incriminating letters between Mary and the conspirators. And the discovery of the plot led to the execution of Babington and his accomplices, and ultimately sealed the fate of Mary, Queen of Scots, who was found guilty of treason and beheaded. I've done several full podcast episodes on Mary, Queen of Scots, and also have a blog post on her ciphers. And and there's also an episode that Carol Ann Lloyd did on ciphers as well, because she had this elaborate cipher network. They had to involve code breakers and all this kind of stuff to break it. It was fascinating. So I'll link to that in the comments. Okay. Next scandal, the shadowy world of the Elizabethan spy ring and the mysterious death of playwright Christopher Marlowe. I also did an episode on him. I will link to that too. So Marlowe was a talented writer and contemporary of William Shakespeare. In fact, there's this whole conspiracy theory that maybe he was Shakespeare. He was a contemporary and very, very talented. And he also led a double life as a government spy. So his involvement in espionage and his controversial beliefs made him a target for intrigue and suspicion. In 1593, he was killed in a brawl with a fellow spy. And the question is, was this a simple tavern fight gone wrong, or was there a more sinister reason behind this fight? History's mysteries. We don't know. I'll do an episode on that, a history's mysteries on that at some point. But for now, that's the next scandal. All right, the final scandal that we're going to talk about today takes us to the twilight of Elizabeth's reign and the ill-fated rebellion of Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. A charismatic and ambitious nobleman, Essex quickly rose to prominence at the court and became a favorite of the Queen. However, his pride and impetuousness eventually led to his downfall. In 1601, Essex attempted to lead a rebellion against Elizabeth's government, hoping to seize power and influence. The plot was quickly discovered, and Essex was captured, tried for treason, and executed, marking a tragic end to one of Elizabeth's most favored courtiers. So there you have it, my friends. Lesser-known scandals of 16th century England that rocked the Tudor and early Stuart courts. From secret plots and illicit affairs to tragic tales of ambition and betrayal, these stories serve as a stark reminder of the high stakes and dangerous games played by those vying for power during this tumultuous period in history. Thanks so much for watching the video. Which one was your favorite, or did I miss any? What are some others that you would include that I didn't talk about? Leave a comment and let me know, and maybe I'll talk about it in a future video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing more content like this. Thank you so very, very much, and I will talk with you again very soon. Have an amazing day. Bye. Hello and welcome to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. And today we are talking about the men we love to hate, the Tudor bad boys. If you're new here, very special welcome to you. I'm your host, Heather Tesco, and I have been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009. This is the place where I put all of my episodes from my various podcasts, as well as loads of extra content. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it goes outside the Tudor era, sometimes it's just random things that I think are interesting, but it's always related to history and how it continues to impact us today. So today we are going to explore some of the most notorious bad boys in Tudor England. Have you ever fallen for a bad boy? I have. It's not particularly fun, but it's always a little bit exciting. And that's what these guys are. From conniving courtiers to scandalous nobles, these men know how to make their mark, and not always for the best reasons. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, let's talk about our Tudor bad boys. The first is none other than Thomas Culpeper. He was the handsome courtier who caught the eye of King Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard. Culpeper was actually a distant cousin of Catherine's, but I mean, like, everybody at court was a distant cousin of everybody else back then, so that's not really saying much. But he was a close confidant of the king, and he was a member of the Privy Chamber. However, the relationship quickly turned scandalous as rumors spread of their secret rendezvous, even while Catherine was married to the king. The affair was eventually discovered, and both Catherine and Culpeper were executed for treason. Culpeper's indiscretion not only cost him his life, but also played a significant role in the downfall of the Queen. Next up, we have George Boleyn, brother of Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife. George was a prominent courtier and diplomat, but his life took a very dark turn when his sister's marriage to the king began to unravel. In 1536, Anne was accused of adultery and treason, and George was shockingly accused of incest with his sister. I mean, Thomas Cromwell needed to just get the charges just all out there so there was no potential opportunity for an acquittal at all, right? So he just threw the kitchen sink at Anne. So most historians believe that these charges were fabricated, but George, of course, was found guilty and executed alongside Anne. His alleged crimes and tragic fate have made him one of the most infamous figures of the Tudor era. Next up, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, close friend, best friend, BFF to Henry VIII, and one of the most powerful men in Tudor England. But Charles was also a notorious womanizer, and his numerous love affairs and scandals earned him a reputation as a Tudor bad boy. Most notably, he secretly married Henry's sister, Mary Tudor, Princess Mary Tudor, the French queen, not Mary Tudor, Henry's daughter. Also would have been bad. But he married his sister without the king's permission. A bold, very bold move that could have cost him his head. Luckily for Charles, Henry forgave him. Their friendship endured. However, his reckless behavior and romantic entanglements continued to make waves throughout his life. Next up, Sir Walter Raleigh, an explorer, soldier, favorite of Queen Elizabeth. Known for his dashing good looks and adventurous spirit, Raleigh quickly gained fame and fortune. However, his bad boy reputation emerged when he secretly married one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting, Elizabeth Throckmorton. This was an absolute no-no, without the Queen's knowledge. When the secret marriage was discovered, both Raleigh and his wife were thrown into the Tower of London. And although they were eventually released, Raleigh's relationship with the Queen never fully recovered, and his reputation was forever tarnished. Another Tudor bad boy was Thomas Seymour, brother of Queen Jane Seymour, Henry's third wife. He was charming and ambitious, but his actions often crossed the line. He, of course, had caught the eye of Henry's widow, Catherine Parr, and he married her in a hasty and somewhat scandalous union soon after Henry had died. But his true infamy came when he developed an inappropriate relationship with the young Princess Elizabeth, future Queen Elizabeth I. So Elizabeth was living with them at the time, with Catherine and Thomas, and his flirtatious behavior towards Elizabeth caused a bit of a scandal, and Catherine sent the future queen away. After Catherine's death, Thomas was accused of plotting to kidnap his nephew, Edward VI, the king, and he was executed for treason. He also probably shot Edward's dog. His reckless behavior ultimately led to his downfall and has earned him a place in history as a Tudor bad boy. Last but not least, Robert Devereux, 2nd Earl of Essex, charismatic nobleman and dashing military commander who became a favorite of Queen Elizabeth I. However, his rebellious nature, impulsive actions led to his eventual downfall. Despite enjoying the Queen's favor, he often acted against the Queen's wishes and pursued his own interests, which created tension between them. The final straw came when Essex led a failed rebellion against the Queen's government in 1601. He was arrested, found guilty of treason, and executed. His audacity and defiance of royal authority cemented his reputation as a Tudor bad boy. So, from secret affairs to scandalous marriages, to defiance of royal authority, these Tudor bad boys certainly left their mark on history. Their stories serve as a reminder of the intrigue, danger, and drama that characterized the Tudor court. If you have any other notorious Tudor figures that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. And hey, I want to thank you for watching. Life is crazy and hectic, and you chose to spend your time learning something new or thinking about something you already knew in a different sort of way. And I appreciate that. And that makes you a very cool person. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you want to see more videos like this. It really helps me grow the channel and it helps me reach more people. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hey there, and welcome to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about a Tudor scandal that I didn't mention in my earlier video I'd done on Tudor scandals. It's the time that, bear with me, the king's father-in-law had an affair with his daughter-in-law, not the one who was married to the king. Confused much? We'll break it down. But really quick, if you are new here, very special warm welcome to you. My name is Heather, and I have been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009. This channel is where I put all of my old episodes from all of my shows, as well as fun and interesting shorter content like this video right here. So let's get into it. I am talking, of course, some of you might have guessed this, so points to you if you did, about the Seymour family. So they were illustrious, very ancient family, but they had their share of family secrets, one of which we're going to talk about today. So this saga concerns Jane Seymour's sister-in-law, Catherine Phil, and she was married to Edward Seymour. Okay, so this scandal actually sent ripples through the Tudor court. It was a really big scandal. In 1519, Edward Seymour, who was the brother of Jane Seymour, he married a woman called Catherine. She was an heiress in her own right, and she had two sons, John and Edward. One in 1527, one in 1529. But soon after, she disappears from public life. Seemingly, she retired to a convent. So why did she retire to a convent when she had this great life with the heir to the Seymour family and these two sons and everything like that? Well, in 1527, her father, Sir William, his will explicitly stated that neither Catherine nor Edward nor any of their children were ever to inherit any part of his lands due to, quote, many diverse causes and considerations. So this denial of inheritance, combined with his wish for Catherine to live virtuously in a religious institution, suggests a scandal of significant proportions. Perhaps it was then in the aftermath of his father's will that the rumor of Catherine's affair came to light. So a marginalia note in a 17th century baronage held by the College of Arms notes that Edward repudiated Catherine as she had been known by his father after the nuptials. The rumors that Catherine was having an affair with her father-in-law were persistent and unrelenting. By 1535, though, Catherine had passed away in her life of obscurity, probably in a convent, and Edward quickly married Anne Stanhope. But then, perhaps still questioning the paternity of his sons with Catherine, he actually disinherited both of his sons in 1540. So if it was indeed something going on there, it would explain the intense efforts to keep it hushed up. Notably, Sir William had disinherited Edward as well as Catherine, so the reasons, of course, remain unclear. The scandal is deeply shrouded in mystery, paints a complex and controversial picture of the Seymour family in the Tudor era. From the height of power to the disgrace of scandal, it serves as a stark reminder that even the highest echelons of society were not exempt from the murkiness and political misgivings of a family controversy. Be really awkward. The truth about what happened between Sir John and Catherine might forever remain a mystery. It probably will. But its impact on the Seymour family was undoubtedly significant, casting a shadow that lingered for generations. In fact, several historians have pointed out that it might have been the reason why Jane was still unmarried at age 27, that maybe people were afraid of getting too involved with the Seymour family. And Sir John stayed away from court and kept to himself. But it was really after Jane married Henry and then gave birth to Edward that the Seymours started to come back. And come back they did, of course. Edward, the brother, became the Lord Protector during the reign of Edward, his nephew, Edward VI. So there's also a tragic element to this scandal, which is that Catherine, the woman who was at the center of it all, was just a pawn. she had little control over her own destiny. And she wound up being separated from her sons and living this life of obscurity, probably dying without anybody being around her. I mean, the whole thing is like very, very sad. Um, However, in one kind of post-mortem uh, success of hers, present Duke of Somerset is actually descended from Catherine because Anne Stanhope's line died out about 200 years later. So the present Duke of Somerset is descended from Catherine's line. So, they kind of got their rightful inheritance in the end. So that is the scandal involving the Seymour family in the years right before leading up to when Jane married Henry. There you go. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you made it to the end, please give it a like. And I hope that I've earned your subscription to my channel. It really helps me grow the channel and reach more people. And I mean, who doesn't want their YouTube algorithm Tudorified these days, right? Thank you so much for watching, and I will speak with you again in my next video. Bye.
Hey, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather, and I have been podcasting on Tudor England since 2000. And this channel is where I put all of my episodes, as well as lots of extra content like this video right here. So if you like Tudor history and you want to see more of it in your YouTube algorithm, why not just hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode. Today, we are talking about secret pregnancies. So I used to run a Facebook group on Tudor history, and at one point it had like 6,000 members. I stopped doing that because I kind of got sick of Facebook, but I much prefer YouTube. But it was funny. People were convinced about different secret pregnancies and secret children that there's no evidence to support actually exists. But like there was one guy who used to write all the time about how he was related to Henry VIII by his secret child he had with Anne of Cleves. There's also the discussion of the secret child that Elizabeth had with Tom Seymour. There's like secret children everywhere. And I get it. It makes for a good story. So I thought in this video, we would talk about these secret children who may or probably don't exist. And we'll talk about the evidence for it, how the rumors started, and, kind of the evidence against it. So we're going to talk about three. The top three that I have found that exist on the internet are Anne of Cleves with Henry VIII, Elizabeth with Tom Seymour, and that James VI's father is not actually Darnley, but is Mary Queen of Scots' secretary, David Riccio. So let's get right into it. So the Tudor and Stuart courts, of course, were filled with intrigue and scandal, and there have been rumors that have fascinated us for centuries. And amidst the persistent rumors that have stayed for 500 years are the stories of secret pregnancies that, if true, could have changed the course of history. In a period where royal bloodlines were everything, rumors about pregnancies, whether legitimate or not, held an immense power. Today, we're going to talk about those top three that I mentioned. And these stories, though never proven, do offer an interesting insight into some of the political and social pressures of the time. And they also reveal a little bit more about how the legacies of these powerful women were shaped, not just by what they did, but by the stories that other people told about them. So let's get started with Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves was, of course, Henry's fourth wife. Their marriage is remembered for being the shortest and probably least eventful in his turbulent marital history. They married in January, and by July of that same year, the marriage had been annulled on the grounds of non-consummation. There's a lot of different things he said about her. Throughout history, it's come down that she's the ugly wife, the rumor of the Flanders mare. Probably it was a combination of him just not being attracted to her. She was raised very differently than his other wives, didn't have the same kind of education. We see like throughout the wives that he's attracted to, the women that he's most attracted to, even the mistresses are, very intelligent. People like Anne Boleyn. We did an episode last week on Jane Popincourt, and somebody pointed out it sounds like she has a very similar personality to Anne, and I think that's probably true. He was attracted to women who were intelligent, and Catherine Parr. Anne of Cleves, I'm not saying she wasn't intelligent, but she certainly didn't have the same kind of education in Cleves that his other wives had, with his emphasis on humanism, being at court, playing music, dancing, languages, literature, all of that kind of stuff. He also famously had surprised her to play this role of the gallant knight errant surprising, the love of his life, all of this kind of thing. And she didn't recognize him, and that bruised his ego. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things. But throughout history, she's come down as the ugly one, which I don't think is particularly true. Anyway, there was a lack of physical attraction. We can say that. There was a rumor later surfaced claiming that Anne of Cleves bore a child by Henry. Some versions of the story suggest that Anne gave birth to Henry's child either during their brief marriage or after the annulment, with the child being born in secret. These rumors persisted for years, despite there being no historical record to support such claims. So the rumor that Anne of Cleves bore a child after her annulment from Henry seems to have originated from a mix of political intrigue and court gossip, fueled by her continued presence in England and a bout of illness. The rumor first surfaced around October 1540, when the French ambassador reported that Anne, who had been indisposed, might be pregnant. While historians suggest her illness was likely gastric in nature, court gossip quickly spread that she was expecting a child by Henry. The story gained further traction in December of 1541, when new allegations arose that Anne had given birth to a boy, supposedly Henry's child. The Privy Council actually launched a formal investigation into the slander, questioning Anne's servants and other court members. Although they concluded that the rumor was completely false and dismissed the claims, the fact that an investigation even took place highlights how seriously they took this, and also, what a big deal this would have been, the power of court gossip and the implications that would have been tied to fertility, to Anne having a child during Henry's reign. So everything points to Anne not having had a child by Henry. But it makes for a good story, doesn't it? I know, people like to talk about in the Tudors, they showed her being good friends with Henry afterwards, and they, in fact, were good friends afterwards. Henry really liked her platonically, it seems. They would spend time together, but there wasn't the level of attraction there. And also, I think Henry would have known what a big deal it would have been if she had gotten pregnant. So I don't think that's true. Let's move on to Elizabeth I and Thomas Seymour. After the death of Henry VIII in 1547, Elizabeth was a teenage princess, and she moved in with her stepmother, Catherine Parr, who then remarried, quite scandalously at the time because there wasn't a lot of mourning time in between, her love, Thomas Seymour. Seymour was the younger brother to James Seymour and the uncle to Edward VI. He was very ambitious. He was very flirtatious. And there was a level of inappropriate behavior towards the young Elizabeth that soon raised eyebrows and led to one of the most persistent scandals of her early life. Seymour would frequently visit Elizabeth in her chambers in the early morning, engaging in playful but highly inappropriate behavior like tickling her, slapping her on the butt, stuff like that. Sometimes Catherine Parr actually joined in, too. Weird. But she later became concerned about the closeness between her husband and her stepdaughter. Elizabeth was eventually sent away from Catherine's household as the rumors began to grow. So then Catherine Parr has their child, Mary Seymour, and she dies. And Tom Seymour sets his eyes on Elizabeth as a potential bride. It was widely rumored that Seymour's ambitions went beyond marriage, with many speculating that he may have actually fathered a child with Elizabeth during her stay at the household. Elizabeth's removal from the household, coupled with the scandal of Seymour's ambitions, made it easy for people to believe something improper had happened between the two. So Elizabeth left Catherine Parr's household in June of 1548. She stayed with Sir Anthony Denny and his wife at Cheshunt, and later at Hatfield. During this time, Elizabeth did fall ill, and she took to her bed with an unspecified sickness, which further fueled speculation that she might have been pregnant by Seymour and given birth in secret. The timing of her illness following her sudden removal from Seymour's household created a perfect storm for these rumors to flourish. Now, most historians believe that the illness was unrelated to any kind of pregnancy, but the combination of the illness and the absence from court gave a little bit of credibility to the gossip. These circumstances, when you also then combine them with Seymour's ambitions and Elizabeth's status as second in line to the throne, ensured that rumors would persist despite a lack of evidence. Elizabeth's refusal to marry throughout her life only added to the intrigue, as some believed it was tied to her wanting to avoid a further scandal. So now let's talk about Mary, Queen of Scots, and David Riccio. She is, of course, no stranger to scandal. One of the most persistent rumors, though, involved her Italian secretary, David Riccio, and the paternity of her son, James VI, the Scotland First of England. David Riccio was a trusted confidant of Mary, often by her side as she navigated the very, very treacherous political waters of Scotland. The close relationship sparked jealousy and suspicion, especially from her husband, Lord Darnley. In March of 1566, Riccio was brutally murdered in front of Mary by Darnley and his allies. At the time, Mary was pregnant with her only surviving child, James VI of Scotland. The timing of her pregnancy, combined with her well-known closeness to Riccio, led to rumors that the child that she was carrying was not actually Darnley's, but was her secretary's. The idea that the future King of Scotland and later England might have been fathered by a lowly Italian secretary made the scandal particularly dangerous for Mary's position. The origins of the rumor likely stemmed from political enemies who sought to undermine Mary's reign, discrediting the legitimacy of her son, who would later become James VI of Scotland, and James I of England was a powerful tool to weaken her already very precarious hold on the throne. Mary's enemies at court used the scandal to fuel suspicions about her personal life, portraying her as a woman ruled by passion rather than political judgment. Can't have that. However, there is no credibility to suggest that Mary's relationship with Riccio was anything more than professional. The rumor persisted largely because it fit into a larger narrative of Mary as an impulsive and emotional queen, but historians have largely dismissed any kind of an idea of an affair or secret child. Now, interestingly, it's still reported today. I just came across an article called "The Mystery Over Who Fathered James VI," and it said the initial controversy hanging over the birth of James was the question of the child's paternity. For decades, James was haunted by hints that his father was not Darnley, but his mother's boyfriend. They still call her his boyfriend. They still call him her boyfriend. But the murdered David Riccio. Cruelly, Henry IV of France actually joined in the gossip mongering by observing that James was indeed the modern Solomon, since he was the son of David, and James was said to have wept openly when this old scandal was resurrected by his enemies. So, there you go. Who knows? Who knows? So there we go. 3 potential pregnancies, secret paternities that were never proven. Do you have one that you know of? I would love to know of other secret pregnancies that are out there, and maybe I'll do a future video on them. If you made it this far and you enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate a press of that like button. It helps to feed the algorithm and get this content to even more people. Spread the Tudor love. Yay. And I hope I earned your subscription to my channel, where I put out content like this on the regular. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Know that you are deeply loved. I am so glad I share the planet with you. And don't forget to drink your water. Super important to stay hydrated. All right, my friends, I will talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye.